Hey guys, it's Dominic. Welcome to Boba Bread and Chat.
Like during those stressful moments, what do you think God is teaching you at that time, right?
Would you like me to go first? Let's go. So when it comes to being taught, of course, the answer that comes to probably everyone's mind is the reliance on Him, right? But I think when God puts us in these stressful situations, like we were just talking about how limitations make us grow, the stress that we deal with also makes us grow. Because when we are growing, we're usually not comfortable. We're often in a spot of being able to lay back and I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to develop or change or I'm where I am. It's comfy, right? So God puts us in these moments of stress sometimes because He wants us to continue to grow in following after Him, but also just grow as person as well. I think an example when I was having to make that moment happen, or having that moment of like needing to grow, there was a project that I was on that if I did well on this test, then I would be able to work on a fantasy project, which would be a lot of fun and a lot of creativity, and I've been waiting for one for years. Lots of weight on that, and I'd be working with the best artists in our group. But I was just coming off of a very tough time with the art director. Our art director was one of those people that can be sandpaper people in our lives, and I was off balance. And long story short, I flubbed the test completely, and I was told, "Why aren't you matching this artist's quality of artwork? What's wrong with your process that you can't reach here? I don't think this is a project that will work for you, Travis. So we're going to have to take you off of the next one." I have been stressing out because I've always pushed, because I know art is hard to make a career, and just being told that you are not good at what you've been practicing your whole life to do, that is kind of devastating. It is something that makes you go, wait, but my identity, all that I am, is wrapped up in the work that I'm doing. You're telling me that I'm not good at this, and that I don't deserve to work on something that I've been excited for so long. That stress that happened there, I had to go through a shift in the paradigm of what I see who I am. I am not my artwork. I am my relationship with God and the other people and the experiences that I live. My worth is not by what society tells me of what I give back in the sense of like money and stuff like that, right? My value is more than that, and bringing God back into the equation and remembering Him. Because at that point too, I wasn't thinking about that, but there was that break there that happened of just like absolute horror of what's happened, and having God there. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't have God there, because that was quite a moment of identity crisis. So, but that was definitely a moment of growth and learning.
我都同 Travis 有一個類似，可唔可以話類似嘅經歷？我以前喺香港嘅一份工作有一次啦，就係咧我收到一個即係投訴，咁嗰個投訴咧其實我係要 reject 佢嘅。個原因係因為咧嗰個投訴咧，佢投訴緊嘅嘢咧，同埋佢投訴緊嘅人咧，就唔喺我嘅嗰個 office 嘅工作範圍裡面嘅。OK， 咁所以基本上咧，我冇得受理啦，我冇得接受呢個投訴啦。咁但係咧，其實即係 佢攞晒啲嘢嚟啦，即係信啊、電話啊咁，俾晒啲資料我之後咧，其實我係好同情嗰個事主，而我覺得咧即係由得佢咩？即係佢係揾嚟揾去都揾唔到一個啱嘅人，咁然後佢揾咗我，咁咧就諗住去投訴。咁但係即係對於我嚟講，我會覺得我幫唔到佢。然後呢件事又好似不了了之咁樣，因為佢揾唔到嗰件事，即係揾唔到個渠道去將佢做翻啱啦嗰件事，或者嚇。咁對於我嚟講係，我覺得我係好唔開心，因為我覺得哇即係神喺嗰個位咧，係俾我見到我嘅嗰個價值觀喺邊度。因為我覺得我唔可以由得佢嘅喎呢件事，即係佢對個事主有即係咁大嘅傷害咁。咁我個心裏面咧就好同情佢啦，我覺得一定要做啲嘢嘅喎咁樣。咁但係我又一定要拒絕佢喎，因為呢個真係唔係我嘅職責啦。咁就神俾我嘅喺嗰一次嘅嗰個教訓係乜嘢咧？就係佢帶咗一個好好嘅同事，係我好信任嘅同事。咁佢就同我，佢聽我呻啦，咁然後佢鼓勵我啦。然後佢同我一齊祈禱啦。如果我哋真係唔係喺嗰個合適嘅位置去處理嗰件事，去將嗰件事叫做撥亂反正嘅話，咁我哋都要安心去接受。我就唔係喺呢個位啦咁樣。咁神俾我嗰一次嘅體驗咧，係一方面係我認識到多咗我自己啦，我發現原來我真係對於我自己嘅要求，或者我對於我自己嘅表現係有一個好高嘅期望嘅喎，即係我會希望我真係幫到人啊。另外一方面咧，就係神話俾我知咧，其實有啲時候我係真係需要有人 support 我，我哋真係需要一個群體去學習點樣去信靠。一齊祈禱，一齊咧去面對我哋覺得好困難嘅掙扎，係不論係我哋自己喺教會入面啊，還是係即係喺我哋工作嘅場景啊，我哋學習嘅場景啊，咁我哋都發現原來其實我哋真係，即對我嚟講，即係我都係好努力去將所有嘢都做好嘅人，但係嗰一刻我係真係知道如果當我需要幫助，當我需要有人鼓勵我嘅時候，我係要出聲嘅，我係要 ask for help 嘅，不論係對神也好，定係對其他人也好。呢個係神俾我嘅，即係一個學習咯。Yeah。咁係啊，我哋要講翻嗰件事，即係佢鼓勵我啦咁樣。咁咧就結果我真係同佢講啦，即係我都好坦白咁樣同翻嗰個事主講，就係其實我幫你唔到啊咁樣。我覺得最大嘅 twist 係咩咧？係神真係聽咗我哋嘅祈禱，我覺得神有觸動佢哋嘅心。我同佢講完嗰個即係佢喺度講電話嘅時候，咁我講翻嗰個結果，即係話俾佢聽，我哋唔能夠受理到佢嘅嗰個投訴啦。咁佢話翻俾我聽，佢就話我多謝你哋幫我咯。即係其實我冇幫到佢，即係我冇幫到佢，但係佢覺得佢俾人幫咗，而佢覺得佢都有啲 release 咁樣。
Thank you. Yeah. No. It's these personal stories we get to know more. But thanks for sharing. I think Kayci brought up a good point and was talking about, it's not harmful to ask for help. I think like she mentioned, like we need to have that support group, right? I think we mentioned in the beginning. It's good. It's important that we have people that we trust, people that we can turn to, saying like, hey, I don't know how to, go along with the situation. Like, I think asking for help, and like sometimes it's hard. I think it's hard, like, to be really honest, like tell her like I'm struggling with this, because like we feel like we can do this all on our own. We feel like, like Travis said, it's like, it's a small thing. I think like I can handle it. I don't need to give it to God. But I think like what God is really talking to us is like in every situation, and no matter how big or small, we have to give it to God, because maybe that small thing could later on become a big thing. I felt at that times like how my prayer is like, what I've been feeling these days is like a lot of I don't know prayers, what we call like I really don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what it is, but at the same time, it's like, God, I just give this all to you. And I think it's really teaching me to, because as a young as I felt like every time like, oh, I go to God, like, hey, I leave it down to you, and then can you provide me with something? I mean, that's how we felt before. I mean, at some point. But what I've been trying to pray for these days is what God's trying to teach me is, that patience and that perseverance to not give up. I felt that at times where in situations with both work, it definitely hinders me to like, oh, I think I'll just give up. I don't want to go on with what's going on. But I felt at that time, when I bring it back to God, or when I go back into time prayer, God is really telling me not to give up. Really telling me, you still have so much life. Go ahead. Your story is not over yet. And I felt that's like a really big encouragement. And kind of like that lesson is to persevere, but also, persistence, but it's also, finding that people that you can trust and really being honest. I think that sometimes it's hard at sometimes to give it to someone, like we want to give, but we just don't know how to talk about it. Yeah.
And I would say that even stress, why God gives us stress, is to remove those masks as well. Yeah. The different things, because we're more authentic and we don't have filters when we're put under the gun. So and when we're in hardships too, we do tend to reach out to other people too. And when we're stressed, one of the things is we vent, and that's connecting with others. So, yeah.
As we kind of wrap up this podcast, is what are some, practical ways that, we can encourage each other to implement in our lives to overcome these stressful situations?
其實有啲嘢咧係可以好 basic 嘅嚇，即係咁，但係我諗我自己覺得最受用嘅咧就係你去散步，最好咧就係去揾一啲有自然嘅嘢去散步。我中意睇花，我中意睇啲樹葉點樣隨風擺盪，我係覺得我好中意睇樹，好中意睇花。咁我覺得睇一啲自然嘅嘢，然後你去行下。咁我覺得呢個係真係散心㗎，香港即廣東話嚟講係真係啱，即係你出門去散心係一件好事嚟嘅。另外一個咧就係即係你真係要休息咯。我哋攰嘅時候，其實嗰個我哋嘅嗰個抵抗嘅壓力嘅能力真係低啲嘅。你攰，你都係個人會敏感啊，會暴躁啊，呢啲都係真嘅。即係我覺得唔係話我哋做咗基督徒咧，我哋就有晒光環咁樣，我哋就唔需要理呢啲 physical 嘅嘢，我哋都係需要嘅呢啲咁。但係如果 spiritually 或者 mentally 嘅話，我就一定係講，一定係祈禱，一定係 keep 住祈禱。有啲時候即係咁樣同神講下嘢啊，然後真係同佢投訴啊，同佢問佢點解啊，問佢向佢求救啊，咁我覺得呢個都係需要嘅。
I think for me, like when it comes to stress and I'm dealing with stress, of course, like the answer that I think we all kind of want to go is like go straight to prayer. But the thing is, what's cool about that, like if I was to elaborate upon that, is that prayer in and of itself is a meditative kind of like time that you're able to slow your breathing, and a lot even of the sense of like not. The Western world kind of secular side of things, like, oh, mindfulness, right? Like, oh, spend some time, introspection, like spend some time by yourself. Well, prayer does a lot of that as well. So then it allows you to just spend some time in closing your eyes too and praying with God, and spending some time alone from the situation that you're dealing with as well can remove some stress just simply from doing it. Being outside of yourself, just by yourself sometimes, can add for a perspective on the stress, where they can provide being like, hey, don't worry about it. Like, look at all these things that could happen that might go well, or it prevents that spiral. That's sort of like, if you're continuing thinking about it and you're stressing about it and you're worrying about it, it's that can't see the forest through the trees kind of like saying, where you're so focused in on that little thing that you don't see the wider picture, that there might be a way to go around the problem and grow from that with that stress and deal with it. And it will take time, and like growth towards that and testing those limitations, knowing where those boundaries is and knowing when to cut them off is extremely important, so then you don't end up burning out.
Yeah, for sure. Some ways that I do is like, I think finding stuff that I really enjoy doing really, does really take me out of that stress, going for a walk or, I know this is part of my work, but I usually go out with friends to just photograph and just have fun and just play it out. I know it's part of my work, but I feel like that time it just allows me to de-stress. I think it just allows me to really do it. Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, because I mean, art as well for me is so meditative, right? Yeah. And it's relaxing, and also running too. I like to run these days, so I feel the same. Or blowing off steam. I do fencing now, so I get to do like that competitive kind of like release of energy. So then you feel better. Yeah. So it's a good time.
Music is really another big part of it, is really listening to music, and then really either playing music or playing on the piano really just helps me distress. There's a really good instrumental artist, William Augusto, really during those times where I learned from a workshop on that Emotional Healthy Church book, really allowed me to really quiet my heart, because usually using music and prayer at that time really helps me to just really quiet myself. And I feel that at that time I feel more connected with God, in a sense that I can really just come to and just pour out all the stuff that I have on my heart. And and with the music, it really just calms my heart, really puts me in a place where I'm not really focusing on the work or focusing on too much of stuff. Yeah.
Do you feel like sometimes though the music, as you listen to it during moments of stress, that it starts to take on the color of those moments of stress, and you have a hard time listening to it after a while?
It does at times. It's hard. Like when you try to pray and then you try to listen to music, it's one of those things where it's like so distracting, where I'm like, I think I just need to turn this off or turn it down. Yeah.
Makes me wonder too. I think partly the reason could be too that when you are still, stress is telling you to move. It's telling you to go and attack the issue that you're having. So I think that also might be why it's hard. Just had that realization there.
So true. I think that's in the mindset as well. Like we want to tackle it right away, but I feel like, I think you brought up a really good point. It's stilling ourselves, to be still, to not move in that moment. And I felt that during those times and during those quiet times with God really allows me to really feel connected with Him. And as well as, besides prayer, and worship music is something that I really, connect with. That's really just like, it's so weird. Like through that prayer, in my heart, there's always that worship song that like I heard it before, but really that just keeps flowing into me. And that really just allows me to use that song to really just worship God. And I felt that that's a really impactful thing. So yeah. Well, I really want to thank Kayci and Travis for coming on to our podcast. It's a really important topic, and a really, interesting topic to explore. If you want to learn more or want to follow more of our podcast, make sure to follow us on our social media channels at lighthousemedia.wac, as well as our church's Instagram page at westwood.alliance.church. In the meantime, stay bubbly and God bless. Bye, guys. Bye.